Hi, in this movie I want to talk about graphic styles and the appearance palette in general, or panel I guess, in general, and why you might want to use graphic styles and how to analyze an object to see if it has styles applied to it. I have what appear to be three different types of artwork here, but they're actually all rectangles. In fact, it's the same rectangle option copied with a couple of different styles added. If I go to outline mode, you see it's just these same three rectangles. So the first rectangle, you're familiar with. It's just white fill, black stroke. Big deal. The second rectangle I got by applying a graphic style. If I go over to the little pop out here of my panels, graphic styles is toward the bottom. I can open that up. There's a number of different styles in here, and I ended up just using this tissue paper style. And in fact, you can open up all kinds of different styles. And if I want to apply a style to some existing artwork, I can just select the artwork and choose the style. Notice it takes a second to come on here, but you can go ahead and apply that. There's a couple of styles here where it will round out corners. Notice that you do that to add to an existing style. So let's come over and do like a drop shadow. Now the thing to remember about a graphic style versus like a symbol is that a graphic style maintains the original artwork's geometry. So for instance, if I draw this circle and apply this graphic style to it, it's applying fill and stroke information, but it's not changing the original geometry of the artwork. How do we know what's being applied here? Again, especially if you press Command Y and you don't see anything showing up there, maybe there's multiple shapes. That's where the appearance palette comes in, and you'll notice that it's grouped by default right along with graphic styles, and that's by design because they kind of work hand in hand. If you don't know how to use the appearance palette, it's really hard to analyze how a particular object is put together. Notice that if I open this up, I can look. In fact, this has three fills to it, three different fills, plus a stroke added. Actually, no stroke, sorry, but three different fills. And you can see inside this top fill, we have a pointillize filter being applied. I can bring up any of these effects at any time. I can just click on it, and it brings up what's going to happen here. I could make an adjustment there to adjust the style. You can also hide just the effect. If I want to see this without the effect, I can turn that off, and you can see that changes things a bit. Notice that opacity and transparency have also been set. So this has been set to 70%, and there's a blending mode of a color burn so that we can see the fills underneath. Basically, if there's no opacity or if this thing's set to normal, we won't see anything underneath it. See how it gets harder to see. See, there you go with that fill on top. So for multiple fills to work on an object, you have to have some of these changes made. Let's pop this back again. I think it was a color burn. There we go. So again, the appearance palette lets you see all these things. If you want to get rid of them, you can also delete. I can go ahead and just remove pointillize, for example, and that gets rid of that. You can add extra fills or strokes. Notice that there's these guys down here. And it also works like the layers palette. So if I add a fill or stroke, I can position it in here. Basically, whatever's on top is going to be the frontmost item. So what I want to show you now is how to add a graphic style. Well, actually, first of all, let's look at this object. Because in this object that I have, I've now made kind of my own little custom style. I put in a couple strokes. Notice that I have this zigzag effect applied to the lower stroke. Let's zoom in a little bit so we can kind of see what that looks like. So I have this zigzag effect. I can click on that and change this if I want. We can also go in and influence the top stroke. The top stroke, I have a dashed line applied to it. And I also have, if we look in there, we have a drop shadow applied. So that's where you see the little dotted drop shadow running around. In terms of fill, I have two different fills. And again, the top fill has some transparency settings in here. Let's see if I've got this right. The opacity is set to default on that, but I forgot one thing I did with this is I set the opacity on the individual blend to be somewhat transparent on one side. So the blend is kind of goofy. We have one blend coming across, and then we have one blend coming at an angle. So pretty complex object that I've set up here. To make it into a graphic style that we would use on other objects, it's real simple. You just drag this over, drop it in, and now you've got that graphic style stored. If you copy this, if you open this file up, the graphic style will still be maintained. Now if I click on other objects, I can apply that style. I can also draw, like I said before, different geometry and still get that style applied. So that's a graphic style versus something like a symbol. A symbol has just the a symbol has fill, stroke, and geometry all together, where a graphic style just is storing your fill and stroke information. So get familiar with both the appearance palette and graphic styles. But again, I think in this lesson, the more important one is actually the appearance palette. Graphic styles are pretty simple. The appearance palette is really where you do the work, and if you're opening somebody else's project, where you see how they set it up. So I hope this helps explain that. Let me know if you have any questions.